Yeah, it is another episode of the Autumn Windbags. RJ Clifford, Juan Soto. Let's have some fun today. Super Bowl week. You feeling the energy, Soto? You feeling that tingle down in your plums? No, not feeling it.
I haven't listened to anything. Normally, my Sirius XM is set to the NFL network when I get into the car. Nope. I listen to like a couple of sentences and I'm not interested in this. And I just move on.
I should be insulted that the guy you're talking to currently has a show on Sirius XM on another channel. And you're just like, yeah, no, it's not set on that one. I don't listen to that cornball. I talked to him enough.
I got enough of you already.
You sound like my wife. She doesn't listen to in like the 20
Why would
years.
she?
Well, I think like the 20 years I've worked in this industry, I don't think she's read one article, listened to one show, peeped one thing. She's like, I get enough of this asshole at home.
You don't talk or write about The Bachelor, about fine dining, about women's shoes. Like you talk about none of the stuff that really interests her.
Yeah. And the other part is her husband's doing it, which is the least thing she's interested in the least. So she's like, I'm staying. Why would I talk? Why would I listen to that? Why would I read anything involving that?
It's like that voice, hearing that voice, like, no.
Every year, I kind of asked myself, like, is the Super Bowl really that much better of any other game you watch? Right? Like, okay, it's the team that won the AFC, the team that won the NFC, and the stakes are the highest. They're going to be champions. I get it. Is it always the two best teams end up in the Super Bowl? Sometimes, not all the time. Maybe not, right? And so every year I'm like, yeah, Super Bowl's kind of overrated. Like, of course I'm watching. I watch, every playoff game and blah, blah, blah. I love football. But it's always kind of overrated. And then every single year, the hype gets me. The hype gets me every year. The stupid, most bullshit storylines that just catch fire only because it's the Super Bowl, I'm all about. Every little bit of, like, clips that come out of Radio Row, I'm just, like, looking it up, just, like, all pumped on it. It gets me. The hype machine how like you get on like Instagram, there's like influencers and 99% of the time, like this is just bullshit, but every now and then they get you. That's me every Super Bowl. I've been influenced by Super Bowl influencers.
I regularly fall asleep during the Super Bowl. Like because I
remember our childhood, like for a while, there was like 7 Super Bowls in a row that sucked. It was just blowout. When we were
talking about I fell asleep in the Rams Titans. That was a good Super Bowl. That was like the last play of the game, right? And it wasn't a kick. That's normally not the case. Usually, if it's the last play of the game, it's usually a kick. This wasn't. It was a tackle on the 1-yard line. So, I fell asleep during that game. I regularly fall asleep during the Super Bowl.
I'm hyped because I'm not traveling for this one. Like last year, I was in Australia for the Super Bowl. I was able to watch the first quarter at the airport in Sydney, and then that was it. Had to watch it when I got home. The Rams Pats, I was flying back from Brazil, and it was actually kind of perfect because I remember how shitty that game was, and I got reception on the TV when we were in like right spot of international waters, just like a bleep in like the black hole of leaving South America. And it was right when that second to last drive by the Rams, where if they scored a touchdown, it's a 3-point game and it's a game, right? You're just like, oh, like they're driving, like it's a game now. And they don't, so the game's over. So I watched like the only 5 minutes that really mattered. So the fact that I'm at home, right? I'll be in Vegas on Super Bowl Sunday, taking the 6 a.m. flight home. The one dude leaving Las Vegas on Super Bowl Sunday. And having the party at the housewarming party, getting the grill out, genuinely pumped. Like I can't wait to like finish this show because it means I'm 1 hour closer to the Super Bowl. It got me again every year.
I'm not at all.
Are you coming over for the Super Bowl party? Are you able to come
over? I'll plan on it.
Should I like make a little pull out a cot for you? Put out the fold out
I'm good on the couch, man. I just on the couch. I don't even need that.
I got a great setup.
I fallen asleep at Best Buy, sitting on a. I swear to God. So I used to work at Best Buy when I was in college. So my godfather wanted to get a new TV, and I'm like, all right, well, let's go get a TV. What kind of TV do you like? What are you looking for? Whatever. What space? and he's talking to the freaking the sales guy. And I used to work there. These guys they don't train them. You don't get trained at Best Buy. You just
really they don't hire electrical engineers from MIT to like try
no.
to sell you the latest
They
iPod?
hire guys that can bullshit and that can read a freaking display card. That's who they hire. And so this, my godfather is talking to this guy. He's just like, and he's just like wearing him down with all these questions. And I sat down on a TV box that was boxed. It was back when they had the big TVs. I'm sitting on the TV and I lean against the wall. I'm just like, and I literally fall asleep as he's talking to this guy.
I think that's more narcolepsy than just.
No, I didn't. I planned on falling. It wasn't like I was standing up and I fell over. No, I was like, I'm gonna sit down right here. Good.
Well, you're not falling asleep at this Super Bowl party. We have like different rooms and like different themes.
Oh
like,
shit! It's like a swinger party or something?
Like the big clubs. They'll be like, oh, here's like 80s hip hop. Here's like top 40, right? So it's a housewarming / Super Bowl party. So it's a lot of like Vicky's work friends, a lot of my extended family. So it's like we've had some rager parties that you've been to over the years. It's a little bit more, I'm 40 now, a little more family friendly, housewarming. Like it'll still be fun. So in the back room, there's a lot of like 2-year-olds and under. So this might be a place you want to hang out. So it'll be a lot of like moms. And we're doing projector screen in the back room with like low volume. In the front room is the 70-inch with high volume, good seating. Like it's like the intense, like these are the people that are watching football for football. Like I got a good group of friends that are big Niner fans. So they're going to be in there just like dead set, right? And then I got a new TV mounted on wheels that I'm going to move to the front yard where like it's kind of like the older, I'm going to have a bounce house. The barbecue's going to be, the weather should be good by Sunday. It's been raining for like a week, but the weather should be good on Sunday. So whatever vibe you're looking for, Soto, we got you. You can hit on the mommy back, intense football watching in the front, chilling with the beer in the front yard, whatever you want, whatever you're liking.
The only thing that I can't stand and I address every time is the dude / chick that says, "Oh, I'm just watching it for the commercials."
Every year.
And they always tend to be in the football room with the best seat. Because they're just sitting down and they don't want to get up and it's, I'm fine on my
They're
phone.
in Dad's lazy boy. That's like
You're
exactly
like,
a
really?
90-degree angle. Yeah.
I got into a fight with my aunt because of that. And I was like, I said, I posted it like, whatever. If you're just watching it for the commercials, just get out of the good seats because you're taking up a good seat for somebody who really actually wants to watch the game.
Yeah.
No, if I get there first and this and that, blah, blah, blah. She freaking bought a 49ers sweatshirt. And I'm like, you're not a 49er fan. Last time I remember you were a Raider fan. Well, I'm supporting my daughter because she goes to San Francisco State like you went to. She goes to San Francisco State and like it's like a buzz up there, so I'm supporting her. I'm like, that's not how fandom works.
I also don't need the Super Bowl party to be way too novelty. Like I'm there to like, yeah, we're gonna have some drinks, some great food.
This guy's talking about a bounce house and shit.
Well, there's gonna be like 20 kids there, so you're gonna need something to occupy those kids. Like as you know, I got a 4-year-old now. Like I've learned this. Like you can't just be like, all right, slew of toddlers, sit there quietly and watch football for 5 hours. You know what I mean? You get the bounce house to keep them occupied, so you can sit there and watch. Right?
Drop a little Benadryl in their Capri Sun.
Not everyone needs to fall asleep at everything, Soto. That's just you.
Look, man, I'm Mexican, dude. I grew up with Mexican parties where it's like there are more freaking more tequila bottles than kids. And you just learn to you put two chairs together. You put two chairs together like this, and you sleep on the chair. You find a place to sleep.
I need the squares, good food and booze, multiple televisions with proper volume. That's it. That's all you need for the adults. You keep the kids occupied, but for the adult, I don't need the like, oh, bingo card for commercials or oh, how many times do they show Taylor Swift? It's like just I'll do some gambling at let me know at the end of each quarter if my square won or not. Give me something to my blood alcohol level needs to be high. My gut needs to be full of some fried food, and the game. That's it. That's the pride is a proper Super Bowl party.
I saw a video. It was the last Raider home playoff game, and it was at the Coliseum in LA, and Metallica played like a free concert for the fans in Lot A. And I'm like, that's such a Raider thing. Fucking Metallica.
Tailgating with Metallica.
Metallica playing a free concert at a Raider game, and fucking the Queefs have the Swifties. Get out of here with that.
So that's the Super Bowl. It wouldn't be a Raiders coaching hire process or a Raiders off season. Not even like
bullshit going down.
It's not even the off season yet. Like there's still the Super Bowl, but still the Raiders are getting ahead on the drama of the off season. Kliff Kingsbury out, Luke Getsy in. We went from air raid to ground and pound, just like that. According to reports from Adam Schefter, it was a contractual dispute. We're talking about Kliff Kingsbury. There was a disagreement over the terms. My understanding, unconfirmed, but my understanding is when we look at these teams around the league right now, they're offering their assistant coaches by and large 3-year contracts. So in this particular case, I think the Raiders were at 2, and I think Kingsbury got at least 2 years left on the deal with the Cardinals. They're currently paying him, so they really wouldn't have been any added guaranteed money by taking it on. There was that disagreement between that third year that I believe contributed significantly to the breakdown in these talks and to Washington going ahead and giving him that 3-year contract that most assistants have gotten during this hiring cycle. This seems weird to me that they would be like, yes, the deal is done. I'll come be your offensive coordinator. And then the length of the contract wasn't discussed. Like that would be like the number 2 biggest thing. It's like, what are you paying me? And how long is the contract? Like, how can you say a contract, like it's agreed upon when like the second biggest thing is still up in the air? This smells fishy to me, Soto. You're shaking your head in a way I understand.
No, it doesn't make any sense. What makes much more sense is Magic Johnson reaches out to Magic Johnson's a part of the Redskins now. I'm calling them Redskins. They're a part of the Redskins. He's a part of the Redskins now with the whole basketball group they have over there. And he reaches out to someone in Kliff Kingsbury's camp and says, yo, if it's not perfect, we can talk about how it's not perfect.
Let me know how you want to butter your bread, Kliff.
Yeah, it's not like
buttered.
And that's the way you would want to say it. Like you wouldn't say, how much they're paying you, we'll pay you more. Like, no, hey, if the deal that you agreed to is not perfect for you, we may be able to make it more perfect, closer to perfect, and leave it at that. And they could both be true. It could both be true. It could be like he was fine with 2 years initially, and then he gets a word from Magic Johnson. I'm like, I kind of would like that 3rd year.
Yeah,
it could both be true, but more likely is that there was, and again, he didn't sign. He's fair game, so it's not like it's anything underhanded here. It's a little shit dickish, but
not illegal, but frowned upon.
I wouldn't even say it's frowned upon. It's just kind of like, okay, really, bro, like that. All right, whatever.
If anything, it's more the media jumped the gun, right? It's more like because there's no announcement from the Raiders or Kingsbury or anybody that
that's what we didn't do a Getsy one, because we already got our freaking butthole poker burned. Like, we got a fireplace poker up our ass, so that got burned so bad on the first one. We had a whole hour-long video on Kliff Kingsbury, and he ends up not being the OC.
I feel like it's not a good reason, but I feel like that's why we didn't do an immediate live on Luke Getsy. We're just like, we just did.
That's what I just said. For me, that was a fact. Right?
I'm just like,
I didn't see a picture of that contract. I didn't get notarized that it's actually Luke Getsy's freaking signature on that thing.
I need Mrs. Getsy there to confirm that this is actually her husband, Luke Getsy. I need
listen, I need the girl who's getting peed on showing 2 forms of ID, and I need it to be R. Kelly's grandma to confirm that it's R. Kelly peeing on that girl. That's what I need.
Normally I say, what movie is that from? But it's not a movie. What show is that from?
What show is that from?
Let us know in the comment section. Greatest show ever.
God damn.
So I heard, and I've been debating whether I bring it up on this show or not, but I will, with the stipulation that this is secondhand information. And I heard it from a very, very well-respected journalist but he made it explicitly clear that this is, hey, I just kind of heard it as a rumor. He hasn't reported it. He probably won't report it. He's
probably
like,
won't. It's too far along.
I'm waiting for, confirmation, another source before I actually report it. But we are much more capable of flagrantly and irresponsibly spreading rumor and hearsay.
Can we talk about that for a second before we move on?
Sure.
We get so much information that we can just throw out a bunch of just verbal diarrhea and maybe hedge the bet at the very end of the video, just to kind of make it like, oh, well, I said at the very end, I did say that, XYZ, to make it, but during the whole video, it's like, it's fact. Like, we could totally do that because we have contacts that can give us that kind of information. We just don't do it until it's reported, Well,
we're in here. We're in this for the long haul, right? So if we were just like a Twitter account that was monetized, I would be like, headline, and we would just roll with it, right? Like if we were an Instagram account that was monetized, right? I guess we're kind of in that same realm as YouTube creators, but that's just not kind of how we're in it. More for the long haul, and we're not going to trade. We attach our names to this, right? We're not an anonymous like NFL/rumors, NFL_rumors.
It's not a faceless page,
Yeah, like we our word means something, right? And so that's why, like, I'll say, like, I will share what I have heard, but I will let you know, like, hey, this was, I heard it from a very, very reliable source, but he heard it from a very secondary source. He's not even going to report it. He's not going to tweet it. He's not going to mention it, most likely, unless confirmation comes, in which case we'll readdress this. But I'll say, like, look, this is what I've heard. This is what I've heard. And this is how I've heard it. And this is the process of which I heard it. And then you can take that information how you like. This could also just be one of multiple reasons why this didn't happen, right? It could easily be like, hey, that 2 to 3 year deal could have been the reason. Right?
All three of the things that we mentioned could be right.
All the things that now, the 2 versus 3, that's leaked for a reason, right? So things that get reported, people put their names on it because they're leaked for a reason. This is one of those good, it doesn't benefit or hurt anyone if this information comes out, which is why it wasn't leaked on purpose. And that's something that I think I recommend all you guys keep an eye on, not just in Raiders media, but just kind of in politics and business and breaking news, whatever, right? I think who benefits and who hurts from this information coming out, because that's why it was leaked out. Like, most news is leaked for a reason. Someone has an agenda. They want the world to know this, and that's why it's out there. This isn't one of those things because no one really benefits. So I heard that either the or a major sticking point was that Kliff Kingsbury was told that Hugh Jackson had to be a part of his offensive staff. Exactly what? I don't know. And Kingsbury's like, bro, I don't want your guy, Raiders, looking over my shoulder and running to Mark Davis every time any little thing goes wrong. Maybe I have, a normal disagreement with Antonio Pierce. Like, I don't want your guy, right? Like a teacher's petty type dude. I want to be able to pick my own staff, right? And I understand. So I understand where Kingsbury's coming from. I do understand that. I also understand where the Raiders are coming from. You're like, hey, Kliff, you're the outsider coming in here. Like, we want, like, he's not very Raidery, right? Antonio Pierce has just been like, we want Raiders. Like, I want you to be this. We want you to be that. It's like, all right, let's have our guy as part of your staff to embed that type of culture that we're trying to have. He's, as super Raidery. We want him involved. So I understand why both sides made their case. I do understand why Kliff's like, dude, I don't want you looking over my shoulder. I understand why the Raiders are like, look, it's only a 2-year deal. Like, if you force us to draft someone high and then it doesn't work out and you bounce for a job somewhere else and we're left with our dicks in our hands, like, we want to be able to have someone to kind of, I was part of the staff to come along and have some continuity here.
Consistency.
So I understand.
It's the opposite. If something works out really well and because of it he's offered another head coaching position, the guy that comes in after you want to have some sort of continuity. I mean, it makes sense.
I understand both sides of it. So that's what I heard. I heard it from a very, very good journalist in the NFL world. This person most likely is not reporting it. And if he or she does, then we'll come back to it. So that could be one of the other things. That's the inside scoop that I got.
Ultimately, it seems like if any one of these three things was the issue, it just seems like Kingsbury came in like a mercenary. He didn't plan on sticking around. He didn't plan on, building something here. He just wanted to show off something so he can bounce off to something else. And I had a guy that I used to work with. He was a part of the business that I had. And this guy, he just changed jobs like every 18 months.
Yeah.
And he'd always just bounce around. I'm like, I get it. You're making, lateral moves to a bigger company, or you're doing this, you're doing that. And you're just basically using your title to get you, better jobs or higher jobs. Mm. And the problem is you're going to get to a point where you're in over your head, and you're going to just tumble all the way down. Mm. And that's what ended up happening. So if Kingsbury wants to go somewhere where he can, maybe pop an offense for a few games or a year or so, and try to parlay that into another head coaching position, let him do that. But by those actions, like, no, I don't want some guy. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a guy. That's a worst case scenario, a guy looking over my shoulder. Like, no, we want some continuity here. We want, we want there to be some consistency, and we want there to be a good line of communication, because, I mean, Hugh Jackson's not going to have as much responsibility and as many things to do as the offensive coordinator would. So if AP can communicate with Hugh Jackson, and they can kind of like go back and forth that way, instead of always having to track down the OC, it just makes more sense.
It complicates the dynamic, right? And I get Kliff and a guy, Kingsbury, who clearly had multiple offers, right? He's like, there's part of this I don't like. I can go somewhere. I imagine it's kind of like Toby from The Office. Like, it's the dude that's Hugh Jackson, right? That's the dude from corporate. That's kind of like, got Mark Davis's ear, and
but he's not there to be a stooge. Like normally you think of a stooge as somebody who doesn't bring anything to the table of what you're actually doing. Like, what did Toby do to help paper sales at Dunder Mifflin? Nothing. He was HR.
He was HR, right? So it's
but he didn't do anything for sales. What were they actually doing on the field? That's not Hugh Jackson. He's not going to just sit around and
I think that part's irrelevant to like what Kingsbury's issue is. He's just like, look, I can get a guy like him. Like he's probably like, I got a guy, right? Like, I'm an offensive coordinator. I've been a head coach in places. Like, I have my staff that I have in my mind, right? Like, I don't want your guy. I want my guy, let alone your guy that's.
I don't even think that was the issue, because I think they would have allowed him to bring in his guy. Just know we're going to find a position for Hugh Jackson.
He's going to be in there.
He's going to be there.
I get where Kliff's coming from. Definitely get where the Raiders are coming from. And it feels more real to me, because the whole 2-year versus 3-year, like, you don't get to the 5-yard line.
Yeah, how is that like?
That's a major issue.
Yeah.
Second
how
biggest
break down a deal that people were reporting was going to happen. No, it's BS.
I think over the years, things will start coming up. Well, anyway, enough about the guy who's not going to be calling plays for us. Let's talk about the guy that is. Luke Getsy. By now, you've probably heard a lot about him. Former offensive coordinator for the Bears. He was fired like a month and a half ago, right? Didn't take him long. Less than that. When I was thinking of offensive coordinators, he wasn't even in my top 5 of guys I thought the Raiders would pick up. They did. Kingsbury kind of left them with their dick in their hand a little bit. Guys started getting jobs, and so like the crop of people you can grab starts, that pool gets a little smaller as the big name guys go. And we go on Luke Getsy. What was your first reaction when you heard the announcement?
My first reaction was, let me look and see his last couple of stops and see what he's done. Mm-hmm. I knew he was the offensive coordinator for the Bears. So, okay, what did he do before then that allowed him to get the job as the offensive coordinator?
That was my first idea. Was like, the Bears OC, that offense was terrible. Like, this is weird. Like,
but there's a reason he got that job, and so that's why I always look a couple jobs back. he was the passing game coordinator, quarterback coach for the Packers, and they had a pretty good passing game. And I mean, it's night and day the difference between the quarterbacks they have there and some of the outside talent, right? The talent on the outside,
and night with wide receiver. That's the good part, right? He's worked with Davante Adams before, right?
So, what did you see a lot in that offense with the Packers? You saw a lot of motion, you saw a lot of play action, you saw a strong running game, you saw a lot of screens, you saw some deep shots, but you saw mostly intermediate throws off of play action. A little bit of freedom for Aaron Rodgers because he's Aaron Rodgers, right? But that's the offense. It is an attacking offense, and they don't always run out of run formation. So it's a good offense, the offense that he was coordinating. And it wasn't a what am I trying to say? Like a McDaniel's very predictable offense. Mm-hmm. They did multiple things out of the same formations, out of the same packages, out of the same motion. So it's the reason he got the Bears job. He did a good job where he was before.
Yeah. And the question is, and so in terms of the question of like how responsible was he for that good Packers offense, right? Like he wasn't even OC passing game, and you had Aaron Rodgers thrown to Davante Adams, right? So it's like, that's a top 10 offensive. I'm the offensive coordinator or a passing game coordinator, right? So you're asking yourself, okay, how much did he contribute to that offense? And you look at like, all right, when he was offensive coordinator, what was it like? Now, Justin Fields and Aaron Rodgers, obviously two completely different quarterbacks, and it was very different. It was the second most run heavy offense in football, behind the Ravens. Although, because he came from passing, the passing coordinator, switching to run game, it shows a weird, like, he had a flexibility in his offense, which is big because we've been going from guys that don't, right? Josh McDaniels this is what I do. John Gruden, this is what I do. Just like we're ready for an offensive guy who's like, hey, here's a novel idea. Let's play to our strengths. Like, oh, let's change what we do for what the personnel that we have. And it's not like our personnel shit. Like, we've got really good personnel. They can be unique at times, right, with what they can do. But, let's be gymnasts. Let's bend a little bit, right? Let's do something different. So I like the fact that he went from passing game coordinator to a run-heavy offense. And I think that was the big appeal for Antonio Pierce is like, run the ball defense, don't turn the ball over. I think that was the selling point for the Raiders was, even though the offense in Chicago wasn't good, it was something that Pierce kind of envisions the Raiders offense to be.
The thing that we have to take a look at is what the pieces where he failed, what could they do? What could they absorb? What could they run? What could they execute? They didn't have a good offensive line. They had a running game that was okay in spurts. They didn't have really a big name at running back or anything like that that's going to wow them, Mm-hmm. The quarterback has some tools, but it's not you don't look at Justin Fields and see, oh yeah, that's an Aaron Rodgers-esque quarterback.
Smooth transition, really. Right? Oh, going from Rodgers to Fields,
right over, and
just change the number. Same guy,
right? Same guy. Very similar to what I said about Kliff Kingsbury about how his offenses kind of petered out towards the end of the season. A lot of that was at the feet of Calamari because let me see if this sounds familiar. He didn't go through a lot of progressions, and he just tucked the ball and ran a lot. That sounds a lot like what Justin Fields does too.
Yeah.
And if you can't go through your progressions and you're just not able to do it quick enough, you're going to get sacked a lot. You're going to take a lot of hits. You're going to run the ball a lot because you're a mobile quarterback and you can. And even though the offense is bad, you're not seeing Luke Getsy's offense. That's not how the offense is supposed to run. Mm-hmm. He's doing the best he can. He meaning pronouns, pal. He meaning Justin Fields. He's doing the best he can. It's just maybe he's just not there yet to go through an offense where, and also to be fair, maybe Luke Getsy was a little bit spoiled because he had an Aaron Rodgers who can just flip through the offense and flip through progressions, right? So it can go both ways. But what the reason why I'm going through all this is I understand that this season, it's okay. If free agency is lying season, right? This is like what is like a worst case scenario season. Like everyone's like, oh, he's bad because of this, or he's bad because of that. And I get it, and I don't want. And I mean, it's great for us, right? It gives us a lot of content to talk about, and we have passionate people who want to hear. But it's like, okay, take a step back, and there's normally a ton of reasons why things work, and a ton of reasons why they don't. And as far as the Luke Getsy hire, if you take a look at why he got the Bears job and what was different personnel-wise between what he had with the Packers, which is a lot closer to what we have now, and what he walked into with the Bears, is a big difference. And the biggest difference is at quarterback and what type of – I'm not saying Justin Fields is a terrible quarterback. He can't play, whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that his skill set is pointed to in a different direction as Aaron Rodgers was, and that may have stifled the way the offense was able to progress, and he had to keep it more vanilla, and it made it easier to defend, so it just compounds on top of each other. So he got the job for a reason, because he did a good job before where he was before, is the main thing I want to take a look at.
And then when you start rolling it forward, because normally when you're hiring an offensive coordinator or even a head coach, right, you're like, okay, let's find teams with great offenses and hire who's ever from there. Passing game coordinator, quarterbacks coach, whoever, right? Let's make them offensive coordinator. That's generally that's the vast majority of coordinator hires, is you poach someone from a good offense below OC. And this was not that, right? You're taking a guy from a bad offense and you're like, oh, let's have him immediately just come and be our OC. Why is that? I'm choosing Dan Orlovsky for his explanation, but basically what Orlovsky says is what I've heard from almost everybody.
He was the most concise, I think.
He's concise. He's very passionate, right? He's Orlovsky. But you can take what Orlovsky's saying, and I've heard it from, not an exaggeration, 10 different people have said basically it's a slightly different version what Orlovsky said to Pat McAfee this week. Take a listen.
I've heard nothing but tremendous stuff about Luke Getsy. I've sat with him and I was impressed with him. Just my time with him. He was really understood their offense. He had a really good connection with trying to tie formations and run game and pass concepts together. I think the two thoughts I have on a debut are this. Number one, why did that offense look like that last year with Justin? That offense for the first 5 or 6 weeks was schematically a stupid offense. It was, and it was not what was necessary for that player and his skill and his talent. And then it changed, after Justin's, right before the injury and maybe after the injury, it was a totally different offense. So I would want to sit down and be like, why? Why did that offense look in many ways poor early and then much better, but also two different offenses? And then why did you get that young quarterback to play so hesitant? Because no one can tell me that young man did not play scared to make mistakes last year.
Everyone says the same thing. I've met with Getsy. He's brilliant. He knows football. He's a rising star. He's younger than both of us, right? He's on the good side of 40. He's the next big thing in football. And I have no idea where the Bears offense sucked. It's like everyone says the exact same thing. Like, you meet the guy, you hear him, you peek into it, you crack open his skull and look into his brain, and you're like, wow, it's glowing, right? Whoa! And then on the field, you're like, oh, that was awful. Look, so man, the hope is that the Bears were such a cesspool that's why even he couldn't get things going, right? Because when he finally had the reins as an offensive coordinator, he failed, right? He failed in Chicago. Did he fail? Or did the team fail him? We're obviously hoping it's the latter at this point.
I like to think of it from this perspective. Did Luke Getsy fail, or did the offense fail? Or it could be both. You and I could go and jump on an NFL team, and we're not going to be a part of a very good side of the ball. Whatever side of the ball we go, because we're going to be the weakest link on any side of the ball we go to. Okay? No matter who you go to, no matter who's around you, if we're playing in the NFL, it's not going to be a good unit.
You did say you're better than Alex Leatherwood. So maybe you'd be the second worst.
That was a couple of years ago, number one. I'm a little older now, but I mean, that's not a high bar. But I say it because of this reason. Success needs execution. You can have the best X's and O guy out there. If your team can't execute what you call, you're not going to go anywhere. You need to have the players, not X's and O's, Willies and Joes, right? You need to have the guys out on the field who can execute what you're drawing up. What Orlovsky was alluding to was, and without saying it, he's basically saying this offense was too sophisticated for Justin Fields, who couldn't handle the progressions, who couldn't handle the offense. Exactly what I said before this clip came out is what Orlovsky was saying. He couldn't. He looked scared. He played hesitant. Why? Because he couldn't handle the offense. He couldn't handle the offense, or he wasn't sure enough to run the offense when facing live fire. And they had to dummy it down and change it towards the end of the season, which is why it got better. But you have to take a look at, okay, well, if he's bringing the same concepts and a lot of the same things over from what worked for him in the past, what's the difference? It's the person who's running the offense. And I think as far as not physical tools, but the ability to process and the ability to find the right read and know where you're supposed to go. And I'm not saying Justin Fields is dumb by any means. I'm not saying that. But he showed that he couldn't run the offense and I'm assuming it's a more vanilla, watered-down version of what Aaron Rodgers ran. He can't run that type of offense. He has to have a different type of offense for it to be more suited to his skill set. And, I mean, Aidan O'Connell's a little bit more cerebral quarterback. A couple of these guys that we might get a little bit later in the draft could be a little bit more cerebral quarterbacks. A couple of the guys up top went through a lot of these guys in college, man. You're able to see what they can pick up quickly because with the transfer portal and all the movement in college football coaching, they're getting a lot of different systems thrown at them. I mean, every single year it's something different. So it's weird. I think that he was saying what I said, but he's just being a lot more diplomatic about it.
It's weird. We're not anywhere near as far along as Bill Belichick, but it's almost like Aaron Rodgers is kind of becoming like the coaching tree equivalent to Bill Belichick, where everyone like poaches Belichick's system, like poaches his guys because they won all the time and no one does shit. It's like Nathaniel Hackett, terrible without Rodgers. Luke Getsy, he had Rodgers awesome, terrible in Chicago. It's like maybe Aaron Rodgers, like all these guys are taking credit off of Aaron Rodgers. Maybe that's not the case, right? Maybe it's not these guys helping Aaron. It's just, Aaron Rodgers is just that good of a quarterback, right? We'll find out, right? As the seasons move along, what Getsy's going to give us. And speaking of quarterback, so coming into the offseason.
Sorry about that, but I think it's a little bit different because Nathaniel Hackett went from OC to a head coach. Whereas Luke Getsy went from passing game coordinator to OC, which is not as big of a jump because you're really still focusing on one side of the ball.
Varying degrees. I'm just saying.
A little different. I'm trying to be – look, I gave and I preached to give a benefit of the doubt before you start coming down on a coach that we had before. I'm doing the same thing with Getsy. I'm trying to be consistent.
We are hoping for the best with Getsy. I just like to look at all angles. I just like to think to myself, this is something I'm going to keep an eye on. With everything, right? It's like, I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers is Bill Belichick where everyone who touched him is going to fail elsewhere. It's just like, okay, I'm going to keep an eye on this moving forward. The fact that the Bears ran the ball so much doesn't mean we're going to do that, but I'm going to keep an eye on this moving forward. It's one of those things. One of the things that's like, okay, I want to start forming my evaluation of Getsy with what he's done in the, what do I always say? What do I always say? It's not where you are. It's the trending of direction that you're going, right? Where did you start? Where are you now? That's most important to me. Like, are you going like this? Or are you going like that, right? Where was Getsy? And where is he now? So which direction are we going in? Because that's all I care about is the future of the Raiders.
But that one dude, that weird, like annoying guy with the like stupid facial hair, he's like claiming that he's all rich. Where am I and where are you? You ever seen that guy?
No.
I'll see if I.
You just described like all of Instagram. The guy was
He's like Armenian or Mexican or something like that, and he's like he wears clothes that are way too tight for him, and he's always got all these like designer like exclusive drop clothes, and
that's
he's all
every dude on Instagram.
No, but this guy's a little bit older, and he has like painted on like he has a beard that's like painted on, but it's got stripes in it. It's terrible. But his thing is for all you haters out there, where am I and where are you?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know where you are. But coming into this offseason, right, there were 3 giant questions. Who's going to be our head coach? Who's going to be our OC? Who's going to be our quarterback? We got the first 2. And whatever's number, like there's a lot of things we got to worry about. Number 4 is a mile away, right? Top 3. Head coach AP, OC Luke Getsy, quarterback. Who's that going to be? Right? Giant question. If Getsy even flirts with the success that he had in Green Bay, we're in a great position with our OC between whoever our running back is going to be, whether it's Zeus or Jacobs. Zeus is nowhere near as good as Jacobs, but for the money, great, right? Davante Adams, an O-line that plays much better than some of their parts, developing tight ends, just a quarterback away. If this if this defense can continue to be what it was at the second half of last season, oh boy. If this defense is even remotely what it was the second half of last season, it's going to be
got
fun.
A lot of young guys on that side of the ball that are still under contract.
It's going to be a fun year. If this defense,
even a lot of those guys are still under contract for this year. Good stuff.
What about quarterback? Okay. Antonio Pierce, this is another reason why I love Super Bowl week, because everyone's doing interviews. Radio Row. Antonio Pierce has this deal with like Kmart or something. So he did McAfee, he did Eisen. He's just doing the gambit, right? Which is great.
Kmart's still around?
Yeah, apparently. They're around enough to pay a head coach, right? So this is what the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, Antonio Pierce, had to say when Rich Eisen said, I love this is a fun question by Eisen. He's just like, is the quarterback of the future on the roster now?
It's a great question.
Well, it's like, okay, the question is Aidan O'Connell your quarterback? Because
but you're not saying that.
Gone, it's not gonna be like Chase. Like it's like he's basically asking, like, is Favre going to be the quarterback next season? Here's AP's answer.
Aidan O'Connell put himself in a position that whoever we bring in, he should battle. I'm all about competition. That would take care of itself, Rich. But Aidan O'Connell, as the season went along, I thought did an outstanding job of taking care of the football, managing the game, and doing what we asked him to do. I said it in one of my pressers. I didn't need Aidan to go out there and win a game. I didn't need him to throw for 400 yards and put up these magical numbers. I just needed him to play to our strength. At that time in the season, at the end, our strength was defense. So Aidan did just that. Now, we made some change on the offensive side of the ball. With our offensive coordinator and our staff, we'll continue to grow our offense. And I'm sure, as you know, we'll bring in a quarterback in some capacity, and we're going to let those guys battle. But I'll tell you one thing about Aidan. He's a competitor. He's smart. I don't think he's going to go down without a fight, and we'll let the best man win.
So when Pierce said, I don't know, week 12, something like that, he was really hyping up Favre, right? Aidan O'Connell is like, he's my guy, blah, 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 blah. And sometimes, when you're at the podium, especially as a brand new head coach, you may be caught up in the moment. Maybe you kind of, like, obviously you're going to back your guy. Obviously he's loved in the locker room and the facility and fans. Like, yeah, like Favre, like, overachieved his draft position and stepped up when he, certainly far from great, but he's a great story. Like, I'm very, very, very happy he's a Raider, right? But sometimes you get caught up in the moment and you hype a guy up a little bit more than you should. He's still doing it. He's still like, Favre's the man. He's done a lot of great stuff for us. It's going to be open competition. It's genuine how highly Antonio Pierce feels about Favre.
A couple important things there. He, like you said, is still very complimentary of Favre. He's also made it a point to say that the strength of our team was our defense. So he did what we asked him to do.
Yeah.
So when you take a look at maybe some of those throws that he didn't make that he maybe would have made in the past or would have made it in a different circumstance. He's not going to go for those passes that are maybe a higher probability of a bad play, a negative play happening, right?
And you saw Farva make that pivot in real time, right? Like he was a turnover machine in his first few starts, and then no turnovers in like the last 4 games or something,
4
right?
games,
like,
yeah.
Whatever it was, like he was like 8 touchdowns, 0 turnovers to close out the season. So he tangibly made that change in real time as a 4th-round rookie.
Which is, I mean, look, we talked about how smart he is. We already know about that. The thing that is, he's able to translate that intelligence to gameplay, which is very important, because you need a lot of guys that are smart. A lot of guys go to like different schools and they're really smart guys, whatever. But when they get on the field, it's different when they're facing that heat. And he was able to, like you said, flip it around 180. And my big takeaway is Aidan O'Connell has more to give. Which is basically what AP is saying. Mm-hmm. Like, he has more to give us. He just did what we asked him to do. And that's what he did. But he's got more. We can get more out of him. He's better than what he showed us because we didn't ask him to do too much.
Mm-hmm. He's 100% correct, because obviously when AP took over, the cupboards are what they are, right? You don't get to go grocery shopping. You're taking over mid-season, and you're like, all right, Farva's our guy. We're going to change our, we're going to game plan around the fact that our defense is playing. I still have to pinch myself when I talk about it. Like, our defense is playing arguably the best in football at that point. Let's just have Farva just not blow it for us. Yeah, just run the ball, control the ball. We'll have Jack Jones get some touchdowns for us, right? We'll just do that, right? Fast forward to now, and now you got a whole off season to do whatever you want, right? I get a ton of cap space, full draft allotment. It's different. You're not just having to deal with who you have. And he mentioned that, right? Saying, look, we're definitely gonna get some. I mean, the Raiders are probably only gonna have Farva on the roster next season of all the quarterbacks that are there now. Jimmy G's gone. Practice squad guys probably gone. It's probably only going to be Farva. It's going to be some a veteran, some like whoever's are going to be practice squad dudes that are going to be brought in, some veterans for whatever. Hopefully another like actual veteran will be brought in, because it's going to be a lot of young guys, right? Again, we're hoping it's a rookie, whether it's we're trading the world for Caleb or finding value in round 2 or whatever. We're going to need a veteran, right, in that room. It's only going to be Farva that's going to have any tenure with the Raiders. And it really feels like Antonio Pierce is like all about Farva being in the mix and really having a shot. We'll see how that goes.
I mean, he would know more than anyone what he's capable of, because he saw him in his progress last year. And it's really interesting when you kind of like read into read between the lines a little bit about what he's trying to say. And that's what I took from it is, yeah, I understand what you're going to say, and you're right. He didn't put the ball in harm's way a lot. He was very conservative. He didn't throw for the touchdowns like maybe some of the other guys, but we didn't ask him to do all that stuff. We asked him to do what he did, and he did it. But he's capable of more. He's capable of more is the main thing. So I'm excited about it. I'm intrigued to see what is the evolution of Farva, if that indeed is the case, that he has a lot more to show.
So you take what Antonio Pierce said about the quarterback situation of the Raiders, and then you take Dan Orlovsky's take on what he makes of the quarterback situation of the Raiders. So this is the second half of the conversation that he had about Luke Getsy. And then this is kind of like the back end of it, talking about a quarterback from the Pat McAfee show.
You got to go jump if you're Las Vegas. Like, you got a good, talented defense. I think that, Antonio Pierce is going to have that group playing incredibly tough. Yep. You got to go get a quarterback. You have no shot in that division. You have no shot if you don't get a guy. I'm talking about a freakazoid, because Justin's going to play awesome. We know they have Patrick. So they would be the one team that I would sit here. It's February 5th. You have to go up in the draft and go get a guy.
Kirk Cousins still going to be available. You never know who would do what. And
not enough.
Russ.
Okay.
Freakazoid, Soto, to even have a shot in the AFC West. Not even good. Freakazoid.
So
after AP just said, like, Farva's going to fight for the position. Like, talk about night and day.
I have this thing that's just gnawing at me.
I can
right?
see it. I can see it in your face.
It's gnawing at me. And
it's one of your cats. I can see him.
Yeah, right. I was able to find a lot more content and a lot more content that was already kind of like ready-made to look at as far as to judge the quarterbacks for last year's draft. And Aidan O'Connell played like a early second round pick his junior year in college. Mm-hmm. That's how he played. Did his skill set match that? I don't know. His physical attributes, I should say. His skill set's really good, but his physical attributes, did it match that at the NFL level? That's yet to be seen. But he looked the part his junior season. He looked like that guy that can be that guy.
Mustache was starting to come in.
Yeah, it was a little faint on the little thing on the sides, and it was kind of filling in the middle.
In the middle a little bit. Yeah.
I'm telling you, go look and see what he did to that Tennessee defense at the Motor City Bowl his junior year. It was like 500 some yards and like 6-7 touchdowns. Like, he won that game for them. And when you take a look at a player who went from that to the really conservative offense that he played the last handful of games last year, mm-hmm. and then you hear what Antonio Pierce has to say about, hey, he did what we asked him to do. I understand what you guys think about Aidan O'Connell, but we think differently because we know something that you guys don't know. I don't know. It's a lot going on right now, but that thing that's gnawing at me is I've seen this kid play as good as some of these other guys that are going in the first day. Mm-hmm. And what's stopping him from transitioning over? Is it having that offseason to kind of learn the whole thing over again and be comfortable in a system and, actually be taught something and not just kind of like pushed to the side like he was with Josh McDaniels?
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's why he wants him to be a little more comfortable. Maybe he's not used to his, hot reads and his danger throws and all this stuff. And like, who knows? There's a lot that goes into it. But that's the thing that's gnawing at me is when I looked at his tape his junior season, and I said it a couple times already, if he would have come out his junior season, he would have been drafted a lot higher, I think, than he was when he came out after his senior year. And I don't know, man. He doesn't seem like a guy that's easily he's not flappable, like he's not easily rattled. He doesn't seem like he's that guy, right? And
he has no highs and no lows. He's no highs.
This is me though. And that's kind of what you want in your quarterback. Is okay, yeah, all right. I threw an interception. All right, well, I gotta see what I did wrong. Okay, I see that. In the tablet, I see what I did wrong. All right, I'll fix that. Let's fix that.
Yeah. I scored a touchdown. Let's go get another one.
Cool. All right, yeah, I'll celebrate with my boys. But then I'm back in. Okay, what did we see? What can we build on for the future in this game? And look, there's two ways to look at Arlovsky's comment. You need a guy, right? Maybe Arlovsky can maybe Aidan O'Connell can be that guy. Maybe that's who the coaching staff thinks Aidan O'Connell can be. Okay. But it's not just, you don't just play your division, right? When he says you got to get a freakazoid, it's not just to beat the guys in your division. You got to win 13 games to win that division because Kansas City is going to win 12. So you got to win 13 games. So you got to have a guy good enough to win 13 games. That's what I think more so than being better than the teams in your division. It's you got to get a guy that can win 12, 13 games a year.
Well, two things. To the division point with Orlovsky, he's like, you have to have a freakazoid to survive. It's like we went 4-2 with Josh McDaniels as coach half the season, Jimmy Garoppolo was quarterback half the season, and Farva thrown in there as a 4th-round rookie for half the season. Went 4-2 in the division. So this whole idea, like, you have to have the next, the second coming of Patrick Mahomes to survive. No, like, obviously, we're trying to find that guy. Obviously, we want a world-class quarterback, and we should be doing everything possible to find that guy and make it work. And obviously, but this whole idea that's like, oh, dude, like you need someone who can walk on water. You need a savior to survive the AFC West. It's like, we went 4-2 under like terrible circumstances, worse circumstances in the division, right? Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes. We went 4-2 against those 3 quarterbacks. Okay, so first off, no, Orlovsky. Secondly, everything you mentioned about Farva, what he's capable of. The 180 he did this season, I think, is too underrated. How he went 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions to close out the season. Again, with the quarterback poison that is Josh McDaniels, changing halfway through. He was basically ignored the first half of the season. It was all Jimmy G, thrown in there half the season as a 4th-round rookie. As a rookie to begin, if you're Caleb Williams next season, being a rookie, there's going to be some growing pains, but you're taking all the first team reps. Like everyone knows you're the starter. You're going to get all the attention. Like everyone's going to need everything they can do to keep, to make you something.
Keyshawn Johnson has a good line. Keyshawn Johnson has a really good line about rookies. All the team wants to know is that, can you make it to the facility? Like, can you get to the facility? Yeah. Can you get to practice? Can you get to do you know how to get to where you need to get to? Yeah. Like your rehab, your meetings. Like, do you know where to go? That's all they care about rookies.
And yet Farva was said, oh yeah, you're going to guide this franchise now. So those two things, I think, is where I think Orlovsky's kind of missing the ball a little bit. And kind of fun, and depending on how fun, random news.
I thought it was hilarious.
Chad Johnson, Ochocinco, whatever you want to call him. I'm officially a member of the Raiders coaching staff. Picture with Antonio Pierce. And I was like, okay. Coaching what? Like telling the players, like, here's where you send your check when you get a fine?
He's a nutritionist. McDonald's every day.
He's the one that's telling the rookies how to get to the facility. He's like a crossing guard or something like that.
Pull that back up real quick. Look at the top under where it says relevant people. Chad Johnson. McDonald's is cheaper than therapy. And never forget, you're paying for sex indirectly, but the word relationship changes the narrative. That's so good.
He could be doing like, he'd be like Herm Edwards in like the rookie symposium. It's like, all right, here's just like life advice. Don't pay for sex, or go ahead and pay for sex. You're in Vegas. It's cheaper than having a girlfriend or a wife.
For sure.
He's just like a life coach, This all got, I read this. I was like, this sounds iffy to me. And then Paul Gutierrez chimed in. Just caught up with Chad Johnson, and no, he's not joining Antonio Pierce's Raider staff. Just having some fun on social media. If this was like an April Fool's, it'd be very, very much below average. I don't know. I guess you got a lot of time on your hands if you're Chad Johnson. So you're like, oh, let me just pretend like I'm on the Raiders coaching staff.
I think it was pretty funny. I mean, I think it was something to get a reaction and to get engagement. And I mean, I read the comments, and the comments were hilarious. Because I mean, he also posted a text conversation between him and his wife, and his wife didn't believe him. And then Chad Johnson's like, fine, whatever. This is your room number. This is your keys here. Don't ask me for any Raider gear. So I mean, I thought it was pretty funny.
I mean, you got time on your hands, you're gonna do stuff like that. I don't know. It feels like a really, really, really not creative April Fool's joke. And April Fools are pretty to begin with. Yeah. Actually, I think April Fools are like gender reveal parties. 99% of the time, they're pretty lame. But if you get a hit, they can be great. I saw this one gender reveal, and it was 2 guys that were like pro. They were just the dude, like the dads like buddies, and they were doing pro wrestling, and one was wearing blue, one was wearing pink, and they had a ring set up and a ref.
Who won? Yeah.
And they did a whole back and forth, and like whoever won it was like, okay, that's an awesome gender reveal. Whole orchestrated whole thing. It was a giant party in the backyard. If you can do that, like, okay, that's a winning gender reveal. Otherwise, it's probably lame. Oh, what color's the balloon? Oh, we're shooting fireworks that don't work, and we still can't tell who it is. Lame.
April Fool's jokes and gender reveals are only memorable when something goes horrifically wrong.
Like a whole forest gets burnt down.
God, that was terrible. Reveal. That happened. That was freaking terrible.
Ready to do some what windbags?
Sure, why not?
Triguyart. This is either like a yogurt pun or
how about try guy art?
Yeah, I think it's a yogurt go.
Try guy art.
In quotes, if you have 3 quarterbacks, you have no quarterback. John Madden. So this was about our last show last time. This is the difference. If you're halfway through the season, if you're in week 8 and you have 3 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. If we're like, it's technically not even the off season yet, right? It's the Super Bowl this week. It's still early. You want to have as many oars in the water as possible. Like, yeah, you want the highest draft pick you can get. Yeah, you want the best free agent out there. Yeah, you want to give Favre every benefit, that every possible tool to be as good as possible. The position is so important. If you only have so many chips to go all in one way, then so be it. Best case scenario, you have multiple guys trying to make this work, right? If we end up in a position where we're not trading up and maybe we're reaching on a quarterback at 14, right? Are we 13 or 14? 13. Maybe it's a little, maybe we're going McCarthy or Nix or whatever, right? Like there's something that feels a little kind of reachy. Maybe we go get Baker Mayfield to see if we can all pan out, right? Like that's what you need to do. The position is too important to just be like, yeah, let's run it back with Favre and see what happens. It's way too important to have like that kind of mentality of just like zero in a guy and let the chips fall where they may.
For sure. We need to have, like AP said, have competition. And you want it to be a legitimate competition. There's a reason why like Shudo, like the pro wrestling, didn't work out. Because it was like a staged, like pro wrestling, but an MMA fight. And you could tell when you're trying to make it real and it's not, it doesn't look good. And same thing with a quarterback competition. It's like, the first practice, you can tell who's going to be out there, and you want to have a strong, legitimate competition for this position.
Daryl Jones, 7603. His size, arm strength, and age hard to pass up. Question mark, and 10 exclamation points. Talk about Justin Fields. To me, it's not even those 3 things. To me, it's more the price. A second rounder, and then he's still on a rookie contract. I feel like even if we go all in on Caleb Williams, I still feel like that's a good move. He's just so cheap.
I don't know, man. So if you get a guy,
rounder, right? Let's say it's a second rounder, the going rate for Justin Fields. Let's say it's a second rounder.
I wouldn't do it, and here's why. You're giving up prime draft capital for a guy that his old team doesn't want. You're getting someone else's garbage, basically. Okay? And it's not like they haven't tried to do different things with him to help him progress in his career. On top of that, he is only because if you're trading if you don't like him, it's going to be a 1-year thing. I know he has 2 years left on his contract, but it's going to be a 1-year thing because if you don't like him, you're going to want to move on from him right away. All right, he didn't work out. We got to move on because you got to pay him now, and you don't get the benefit of having a young quarterback by having the time to develop him as much as what Justin Fields has showed he needs developing. You don't have that kind of time to get him to where you want to get him. It just you're giving up a prime. Your second round pick is still a really high pick, right? We talked about the first 10 draft picks are like the cream of the crop. From then to like number 50, it's pretty much another group of people. And then from there to like 100, 125 is like, what's your flavor, right? So it's still a prime pick, right? You still get guys in the second round that go like maybe could have gone in the first round depending on who's picking where, right? But so give up a pick like that for a young quarterback who hasn't shown progression, who didn't show his last team enough for them to want to keep him around. Plus, you add on on top of that, you're going to have to pay him a lot sooner. You're better off just getting a young quarterback.
It's basically a 2-year, $28 million deal for him.
But it's not a 2-year because you're not going to keep him that second year.
Yeah, you are. You have to
decide, show you.
You have to decide now. The 5th-year option has to be decided now. You don't.
But what I'm saying is
so it is a 2-year deal.
Yeah, but the thing is you're not going to want to keep him that second year.
I mean, I guess you could trade him, right? You can.
That's what I'm saying. Is you're not going to want to keep him that second year if he didn't show you what you want to see that first year.
My point being, there's a very real possibility that he's a good quarterback, and things were just so awful in Chicago that's why he didn't succeed. That is a very, very, very real possibility. And for a second-round pick, to me, it's worth.
You say that like it's nothing. A second-round pick is a really good pick.
It's the second best pick you can have besides the first. But you're dealing with a quarterback. You're the one that's like trade everything you can for a really, really high first-round quarterback.
You put everything into the pot, RJ. It's not just the meat. It's the stew. It's the vegetables. Everything together because you get more time, right? And you get that more of a contract flexibility. You don't have that flexibility with Justin Fields, and he's already shown you he can't develop the way you want.
Chicago in a
the guy that you have now an offensive coordinator. It doesn't make sense
with bad wide receivers and just like a bad team in general, bad locker room. Like under Antonio Pierce,
reading the
throwing to Davante Adams.
If he's flinging the ball around the field and these guys are dropping passes, running the wrong routes, I understand that. But when you say that he looked confused and he looked hesitant and he looked scared, that tells me that you can't run an offense that we're trying to run at the NFL level.
And also he played better at the second half of both seasons as also Getsy started thinking, okay, this is what works for Fields and this is what doesn't. Not predicting Fields is going to be great. I'm saying for a second rounder and a chance of a good quarterback and you have 2 years to work on it, no brainer you do it. Eddie.
I don't agree with that.
Ask how our last 5 rounders are doing. Trade the sink. Bring in a star quarterback. Well, first off, it's not going to be Mike Mayock and John Gruden drafting our first rounders anymore. And that's always been the big thing with the Raiders, right? It's just like, oh, well, your first rounders suck anyway. It's like, well, the people that were making those picks sucked. We're all hoping we're not living in a world where it's like whoever the Raiders GM is going to blow it at first round picks. Telesco. How about you look at Telesco's history of first rounders? Fucking phenomenal. He's an amazing first round picker. Hit. Pro Bowler, Justin Herbert, defensive all pro. Like, look at that list. Not at what Gruden and Mayock did. Look at Telesco's list. It's good.
Slater, Herbert, Williams, Derwin James
for like 13 years. Like
he missed on like Tillery. He missed on
missed last season. Who they picked? Who they picked last season?
Oh, the guy from TCU, the receiver.
Yeah,
he was hurt though in the beginning of the year.
Yeah,
and receivers, not all receivers come out like Justin fucking Jefferson. Okay, it takes them a while sometimes.
This will be the deciding one, right? If Telesco's, let's say he's our GM for like the next 4 years. And it's more like just swing and miss at first round quarterback. It's like, okay, that's
probably us. It's probably us.
It's not me. It's you. It's not you. It's me. Like it's not you, Telesco. Like if Telesco just like ends his run of good first rounders, then it's something wrong.
So you can look at you can look at that from two perspectives. It's you don't want to trade a bunch of first round picks because Telesco hits on his first round picks, right? Mm-hmm. But at that same light, he's good at evaluating talent. So if he thinks the guy that
specifically,
yeah, and if he's the guy, if Telesco thinks that's the guy that you need to get, then you should trust him.
The other half too is development, right? Like, would Patrick Mahomes be Patrick Mahomes if he didn't go to Andy Reid, be under Alex Smith for that time, had the cheetah, had the tight end that remained nameless, right? Like, I think that's also very underrated part of this as well, too. Like, it could also be, you know, the Raiders just ran kind of a willy-nilly, you know, development program. Well, the development program where they let Henry Ruggs and Damon Arnett loose and be insane, and, you know, Cable just like, maybe Leatherwood could have developed better somewhere else, but Cable just sucked. Like, that is a question to be asked as well with this new with the new regime. Is if it's like, okay, was it just we were just picking the wrong guys, or are we doing something wrong when they went through the door? This is a very interesting time because it feels like such a big change. It feels bigger than like when Gruden came, because I feel like they were always trying to be, the Raiders were trying to be Gruden-ish in a lot of ways. Like Jack Del Rio and Gruden weren't that different, right? But going from Mick Ziegler to, I come with a fun name for AP and Telesco, from Palesco or whatever, right? This feels so different. It feels like a completely different place for you to land as a player.
I think what's happening is a lot of what I talked about a couple of seasons ago, when we talked about Davante Adams coming in, is you get these guys who are Raider fans, and they can kind of like spread that love. Well, like this is what it is to be a Raider, right? Now you have the lead of your organization basically doing that. And I'm going to say something right now, and it may be a hot take, controversial, whatever. The closest thing to Al Davis since Al Davis is Antonio Pierce for this franchise. A guy that knows the culture, a guy that has the authority, a guy that's able to put and embrace the ex-Raiders. Also, other guys from, I mean, we just signed Caldwell to be the run game coordinator and also coach linebackers. Like, we're bringing in a lot of smart NFL names, guys who has a lot of years under their belts, guys who've won a lot of games, to really help stabilize and develop this group of players, coaches, scouts, you name it. So the influence that Antonio Pierce has on this organization as a whole, I don't think we've seen that. And even though Gruden was given a lot of power, that was more putting Gruden ahead of the Raiders. Like, it was about Gruden. Let's not fool ourselves. It was Gruden number one, and then closely behind was the Raiders. But it was Gruden. It was about him. AP is about the Raiders. And I think since Al Davis, AP is the closest thing to this organization since Al Davis.
Well, he's also in a position where he doesn't have like the muscle to flex that Gruden did, right? Like, even if he wanted to be, you know, the czar of what happens with the Raiders, he doesn't have that kind of cachet. Right. So I think he's also in a position to
got the juice.
He didn't have the juice. I think he's also smart in knowing it's more apt to be like, let me be in the culture as opposed to the dictator of said culture. Super Bowl week, everybody. Enjoy the game. Have fun this Sunday. We might do something like Monday or something, just kind of like a Super Bowl recap. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how much sleep Soto gets at my house when we're watching the game, slumber party or not. International Hangover Day at work, Monday after the Super Bowl. Take full advantage, everybody. Your boss will understand.
Holiday. You might as well do it.
If your boss has an issue, just send him our way. We'll write you a note, like a doctor's note, but more important because it's on YouTube. Until then, knock on wood if you're with me. Hey, you made it to the end of our video. Great job. I know you want more. Go ahead and click the next video. And if you're feeling crazy,